I'm Brooke on behalf of Interior Motions, and today I will be speaking to Dr. Rana Al Falaki, an optimal performance strategist. Today, we will be discussing how we can experience flow and get more with less. Hi, Dr. Rana. Thanks for being here.
Hi, Brooke. Thanks for asking me. It's a pleasure.
So let's jump into the questions. Burnout is a major issue that many corporate employees are experiencing at the moment. What is burnout, and how can employees and employers alike combat it?
Okay, so two parts of the question there. Firstly, if I start with what it actually is, and you're absolutely right, it's not just corporate employees. I think it's the majority of people who have some kind of job, and it's usually because we can't shut down. You know, we're in the office or working from home still. There's no defined lunch break. You come home, you can look on your computer, you can look on your phone. You don't stop accessing your emails without firm boundaries. So the reality is the push and the pressure is always there. So how might we be feeling if we were suffering from burnout? A lot of people think it's just fatigue, but it really isn't. In actual fact, you can find yourself performing even better when you're actually burnt out. But it's because you use and you get all of your energy reserves to perform. Say, you know, you'll work under stress if you have a project. But a lot of it is a bit like an athlete. It's the recovery phase that becomes really, really difficult. So you can perform, you can bring it, but then you find yourself being extremely tired for weeks, days, weeks, a month afterwards. So it's just you don't have enough in the tank for reserve. Likewise, fuzzy head, you know, foggy brain, not being able to think clearly can be a very common sign of burnout. Feeling particularly tired in the mornings, not being able to sleep so well, which seems ironic because you're thinking, oh, but you think you were tired, so you'd actually be able to sleep better. But not necessarily the case. And just a general sense of lack of engagement, not being particularly productive, not being particularly engaged or being able to connect with yourself or other people, not feeling particularly passionate, perhaps not feeling excited about stuff. It can creep up on you as well. A lot of people don't notice that. So what can we actually do about it? Well, I gave you a few hints already by talking about the fact that we're unable to switch off from our phones. And so one of the biggest things really is defining your boundary, you know, making your boundaries very clear. So if we stick to the corporate environment and work, it's making your boundaries very clear about what your working hours are, what you are and aren't prepared to do, what you are and aren't prepared to accept, being really in touch with yourself and understanding what your needs are. Learning to become a really effective communicator. But I mean, I can tend to teach two forms of communication, both what we call dynamic communication. So understanding where the other person is coming from and then being able to match them with the same energy. And at the same time, sort of needs-based communication as well, so that other people around you feel really heard. And that's really important when you're trying to implement boundaries. And likewise with learning time management skills. Really learning and understanding who you are and what your value system is, which will again in turn will help you understand your needs and also help you understand your triggers when you're not happy about something. And then in turn the whole kind of thing in the mixing bowl is then the communication to be able to communicate that back. So really it's the leadership skills that you learn, being able to engage others, being able to influence others, all of those things. The more you can do that, the less burnout you're going to feel.
Right. In a culture that values hustle and productivity, you often advocate for getting more with less. Can you tell me what you mean by that?
Yeah, so I mean, again, it's sort of following on from this need to do all the time. And actually, when we're in the doing phase, we don't end up being very much. So what happens is we're actually not very productive. It's completely the opposite because we don't have time management skills. We end up focusing on the wrong things. We can have a goal and we might not focus on our top 3 goals, but we've got this massive to-do list. So we don't end up focusing on what we actually want. And then we don't feel a sense of achievement. And again, that spirals us more and more. So what I mean by get more, by doing less, the opposite is by being more, which means raising our energy levels to a point of consciousness, recognizing we have choice, engaging other people, influencing other people, doing stuff for other people, but not being afraid to express our needs as well, so that they do stuff for us in return. I mean, how many times do we find ourselves saying, yeah, someone will say they want to repay the favor, and you'll be like, no, 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 it's fine, it's fine. Well, eventually that tank is going to empty itself out, hence the burnout. You know, it really is kind of about that energy. So the way to be more is elevate our energy to a point, and I don't just mean physical energy here, but I mean our energy to a point where we get to a win-win situation, and we're not afraid of that, where we train our intuition to such an extent that we can tap into our creativity. So we don't actually have to think so hard, but we can learn to trust our other skills, what we call the soft skills of leadership. But when we learn to develop those incredibly well, we can have chaos going around us, and we're not going to expend energy by feeling stressed. You know, and it's also that emotional intelligence piece that is so, so important. So it's about being more and understanding who we are and our value system, so that we can live by our current values and not go against the grain. Right. So we're not wasting anything.
Yeah, I love that. So what other tips can you offer listeners trying to achieve their optimal performance?
So your optimal performance is exactly that. It's, you know, think of an athlete. How do they perform optimally? They work at it every day. But the work obviously has to be fun, because we don't want to drain you and exhaust you. So daily practices, get into your daily practices. I'm a huge advocate of gratitude, because that's probably the easiest daily practice anyone can have to raise their vibe, to raise their energy level. Do some kind of emotional intelligence training, you know, even if you just check in with yourself every day, learn to recognize, understand, and then regulate your emotions. So they're easy things you can do every day. Focus on your wins. So this isn't just about positive thinking, because it's far more complex than that and far more powerful than that. But consider what your wins are, and remember what you won that day, and think about how you contributed to someone else's life or someone else's project at work in that day. So you really start to elevate yourself and basically give yourself a positive flow. So then when things happen that aren't so good, there's plenty left in the tank. Daily practices, 4 daily practices for you. We'll just take a couple of minutes, just find time to do it, and it will really, really help.
Wow, those are great insights. Thank you so much for your time, Dr. Rana.
You're welcome. It's an absolute pleasure.